Welcome to my Tower of Terrors TBR. I like that. Little alliteration in there. Very nice. I am definitely trying to get into the fall mood. I am wearing plaid. I have on earrings in the shape of little ghosts. Always amazing. October is the month when I usually just completely overdo it on spooky reads and then don't read them the rest of the year, and I plan to continue that tradition this month. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'm going to start out with the books that I don't own a copy of physically. And the first one that I am really excited to read is An Academy for Liars by Alexis Henderson. So I don't know that much about this book. I haven't actually read any books by this author. I know that she wrote House of Hunger and I think The Year of Witching, which are two other kind of spooky themed reads that people seem to really enjoy. So I'm pretty excited to give this one a try. I'm going to read a little bit of the description. It says, Lennon Carter's life is falling apart. Then she gets a mysterious phone call inviting her to take the entrance exam for Drayton College, a school of magic hidden in a secret pocket of Savannah. So the idea is that the magic in this world seems like it has to do with the ability to kind of magically persuade people. And it seems like that may be something that is going to become very dark. This is definitely described as dark academia. I love some dark academia, definitely very fall-like, and this new release is one that I am just so excited to be able to read this month. Another book that I already have out from the library that I'm excited to read is Episode 13 by Craig DeLuey. This is the story of a reality TV show. The TV show is called Fade to Black, and it is one of those kind of ghost hunting reality TV shows that we have definitely all seen. You know, we've all seen those shows and how kind of sketchy their finds are, I think, at least in my opinion, for the most part. But what if they stumbled upon something that was very, very real? And that is what this book is about. And I think it sounds amazing. I know that it is told mostly through found footage, like, you know, notes and scripts and old video fragments and things like that. And if you know me, you know that I adore a found material story. I love things that are told through fragments of a story that you have to kind of piece together yourself. It's one of my favorite things, so I am really excited to get into this one. Another book that I hopefully should be able to get by the end of the month is The Haunting of Ashburn House by Darcy Coates. The description says, everyone knows about Ashburn House. They whisper its old owner went mad and restless ghosts still walk the halls. They say it's the dwelling place of something cruel and sinister. But when Adrienne, desperate and in need of a place to stay, inherits the crumbling old mansion, she only sees it as a lifeline until darkness falls. So basically, I think the idea is that she and her family lived in the house when she was a child for a very brief period of time, and then things happened and they didn't live there anymore. But now, as an adult, she has inherited the house and she has to figure out what's going on, which I think is probably ghosts and not good. I love a haunted house story, and I have seen several people whose opinions I really respect talk about what a great haunted house story this is, so this is one I'm definitely looking forward to reading. And then we have The Silent Companions by Laura Purcell. This one is a Victorian ghost story, and I love Victorian novels, I love Victorian stories. It is the story of Elsie. Elsie married a man named Rupert. She thought she was destined for this amazing, luxurious life, but then he dies very unexpectedly. So she goes to his country house, and she finds that it's a pretty strange place, right? There are servants who seem to resent her. Classic. There is one of his family members who is a very strange individual. Also classic. And it says, in her new home lies a locked door beyond which is a painted wooden figure, a silent companion that bears a striking resemblance to Elsie herself. So it kind of feels like a little bit of a Rebecca kind of situation, if you've ever read that one, except probably a lot creepier. And I am really looking forward to reading it. The library says I should get it in about 2 weeks, so should be able to get to that before the end of October. Okay, and that is it for books that I don't own physically. I already went to the library and picked up all of the books that were on my TBR that were even faintly October themed. Had a good time doing that, and now I am really excited to be able to show you some of those books. Starting out, we have Murder Road by Simone St. James. Simone St. James is one of my favorite, I would say, thriller writers. Her books kind of tread this line between thriller, suspense, mystery, horror. There's a lot of different stuff going on in them. And I'm not somebody that really likes a thriller, to be completely honest. I think so many of them are formulaic these days and they just do not do it for me, but her books are usually pretty solid 4-star-ish reads. This is her newest book. I have not read it, so I thought it would be perfect to read it in the month of October. A young couple find themselves haunted by a string of gruesome murders committed along an old, deserted road in this terrifying new novel from the New York Times bestselling author of the Book of Cold Cases. So I don't really know anything else about it than that, but I know that Simone St. James is just really always a good time and absolutely perfect for fall, and I didn't realize that she had a new book that I hadn't read yet, so I was really excited to pick this one up from the library when I was there. The next book I have is a young adult book that I have been meaning to read for ages, and that is Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. I have seen so many booktubers reading this book over the last few years since it came out and really praising what a great story it is, and I have a lot of scary books this month, and this is not a scary book. This seems like it's going to be a little bit more of a heartwarming coming-of-age tale, and I feel like at some point this month I'm going to be really ready for that. So, what's it about? This is the story of Yadriel, and Yadriel is having difficulty because his traditional Latin family does not want to accept his gender. He sets out to perform a ritual to free the ghost of his murdered cousin Miguel, but accidentally summons the school's resident bad boy, and he is not about to go quietly into his death. Left with no choice, he agrees to help him so that they can both get what they want, but the longer they spend together, the less he wants to let him leave. That actually sounds like it's going to be really cute, and I am definitely looking forward to it, and I'm glad to pick up a book that's been on my TBR for quite some time. Now we have another haunted house story, because haunted house stories are probably my favorite kind of scary book. And this one I have heard so many great things about, and it is September House by Carissa Orlando. So this is the story of a young couple who buy a Victorian house for what seems like a really great price, like a suspiciously great price, right? And then it turns out that in the month of September every year, all the people that used to live there that died come back and the walls drip with blood and, you know, normal old house stuff, right? It sounds amazing. I am really looking forward to it, for seeing like how they're gonna tell this story. I personally live in an old Victorian house and can't say that I have experienced this, have now lived through a whole calendar year, have had zero blood dripping from the walls, did have a bathtub leaking, but that is not the same thing. I'm looking forward to this one. I just think it's going to be creepy. I think it's going to be perfect, and I have seen a lot of good stuff. I think this came out last year, and I've been meaning to read it ever since, so really definitely looking forward to this. Now we have, yes, another haunted house story, and that is The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. I have been meaning to read this one also for quite some time. I have not read any books by Isabel Cañas, and I also would like to read The Vampires of El Norte, and I don't know if there's a third one. I think there might be by her that all sound like really great books. I have seen only good things about this. It is on my TBR for my Our Fantasy Bingo Challenge that I'm doing this year, so I'm glad to finally be getting to it. And let me tell you a little bit about it. It says Mexican Gothic meets Rebecca, and I can close the book there because that's enough for me, but I'll keep going. In this debut supernatural suspense novel set in the aftermath of the Mexican War of Independence, about a remote house, a sinister haunting, and the woman pulled into their clutches. Yeah, and everybody that I've seen read this has really loved it, so I definitely think this is going to be a great one to read this month. And the last one of my library books is a book that I don't think I've seen anyone actually be able to explain what it's about very well, and that is The Library at Mount Char by Scott Hawkins. I've been meaning to read this one for quite a while. I think it's a weird book. People say it's a weird book. So what's it about? A missing god, a library with the secrets to the universe, a woman too busy to notice her heart slipping away. Carolyn's not so different from the other people around her. She likes guacamole and cigarettes and steak. She knows how to use a phone. Clothes are a bit tricky, but everyone says nice things about her outfit with the Christmas sweater over the gold bicycle shorts. After all, she was a normal American once herself, but that was a long time ago. before her parents died, before she and the others were taken in by the man they call father. If you have read this book and you enjoyed it, I would love to hear about it. If you didn't enjoy it, tell me about that too. I need the warning, but it's definitely one that I don't really know what it's about, but I just thought it sounded like a good October read, so I added it to my TBR. I have one more library book. I think I said I was done, but lies. I have one more, and that is Come With Me by Ronald Malfi. I've never read anything by this author, and to be honest with you, before I started looking for scary books for October, I hadn't heard anything about this author, but I saw him recommended quite a lot on, particularly on Book Talk, so we'll see if that's a mistake or not. But this one sounds really good. It says that he is a Bram Stoker Award finalist, which I respect. So it says, Aaron Decker's life changes one December morning when his wife Allison is killed. Haunted by her absence and her ghost, Aaron goes through her belongings where he finds a receipt for a motel room in another part of the country. Piloted by grief and an increasing sense of curiosity, he embarks on a journey to discover what Allison had been doing in the weeks prior to her death. I think it sounds good, and that is a very atmospheric cover, definitely. And I just think it's going to be really great, and I'm looking forward to it. Now, I have a few books that I do own that I picked up at used bookstores in the last couple months that I have been saving for the month of October. And yes, I know I'm not going to read this many books, but we're just going to go with it. The first one is Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. I have seen a lot of people read this, and I feel like it's very love it or hate it. The reviews on Goodreads are very love it or hate it, so I want to find out for myself. And I definitely want to read it in physical form because the book, one of the plot points is that there is a small boy who our main character Mallory is babysitting, and he draws pictures, but his pictures have become very dark, and she starts to wonder about maybe there might be something he's seeing that he is including in his drawings. And the book is full of drawings, and I'll just show you this one kind of from near the beginning so you can get an idea. I am looking forward to this. I don't really know anything more about it than that. I think the pictures might be evil. We'll see. It's got a lot of pictures and things like that in it, so I love a book that has stuff in it that's not just words. Then we have The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. I've never read a Stephen Graham Jones book. I tried to read My Heart is a Chainsaw, but I could not with the narrator's voice, and hopefully that was just that book problem and not a problem with this author in general. I think this is his debut novel. It says, a tale of revenge, cultural identity, and the cost of breaking from tradition in this latest novel from the Jordan Peele of horror literature, Stephen Graham Jones. It follows 4 American Indian men after a disturbing event from their youth puts them in a desperate struggle for their lives. Tracked by an entity bent on revenge, these childhood friends are helpless as the culture and traditions they left behind catch up to them in a violent, vengeful way. Okay, so we've got some guys, maybe they were friends when they were growing up, come back together to confront the evil entity. It's a very It kind of problem. I feel like I've read several books lately that have this idea. It's not very long, so yeah. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to get to it soon. And then a book that I'm definitely going to be reading this month is The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. This is the last of Grady Hendrix's books that I have to read until his new one comes out in January. He's my favorite current horror writer. I just love everything about his books, and they're all so different from each other, and they always have this kind of like really sly sense of humor in them. Let me tell you a little bit about this one. It's basically the idea that in a horror movie, there's always a final girl, right? There's always a final girl who is the only one left standing after all of her friends have died horribly. And in this book, our main character is Lynette, and she's a real-life final girl from a massacre 22 years ago. She's in a support group with all of these other final girls. And that's all I really know about it, but I'm sure I'm gonna love it. Love Grady Hendrix. And I also just have to point out that Grady Hendrix has the most amazing author photo that I have ever seen, if you can see that. It's amazing. Anyway, so I am really looking forward to reading that one. That is the last one of his books that I have to read, and then I will be all caught up, and that will be exciting. Then we have Little Eve by Catronia Ward. So Little Eve is the story of a cult, and there's something about fall that makes me really think about books that are about cults. I don't know why that is. And in this cult, there has been a murder, something has gone wrong, the police have to come to investigate it, and we find out what's going on in this strange Scottish clan is what it says, but I'm pretty sure they're a cult. I've never read a Catriona Ward book, and this is the one that I own, so I'm gonna start with this, even though I don't think it's her most famous one, and I definitely think it's gonna be very spooky for the month of October. I have one more book that I own, and that is Witchmark by C.L. Polk. I just love the cover on this, and C.L. Polk, this I think is their first novel that they ever wrote. I am a big fan of Even Though I Knew the End, which is a novella that they published, I think, in 2023, which if you haven't read, you really should, especially if you like fantasy and you like film noir, because it's kind of a mashup of those two things. So I don't think it's actually set in our world, but I think it is very, very inspired by England after the First World War, but it is not World War I. This is not what we're doing here. It is an original world reminiscent of Edwardian England in the shadow of a world war, with magical families who can use their powers to influence the outcome of their countries. And Miles is our main character, and he's someone who was away in the war. He's back. He's different from how he was before he went. He has faked his own death and he's now hiding, but he can't hide forever. And that's the beginning of the story here. It is definitely interesting sounding, and I really trust this author to deliver a interesting and fun and just different, inventive kind of story. I'm very excited for this one. I was really excited when I found it at the used bookstore, actually, because I've seen the other books in this trilogy at the store, but I've never seen the first one, which obviously I want to start with. So, okay, now we are to the last part of my Tower of Terrors TBR. And that is going to be the books that I have advanced reader copies of that are coming out in October that I need to read. And I think that all three of these books are actually perfect for October. So the first book that I have an ARC of is The Scholar and the Last Fairy Door. I've seen some people describing this book as being kind of reminiscent of Emily Wilde, which is a series that I love, so I did request it in the hopes that I would love it just as much as that. So we will see. It says, all they needed to break the world was a door and someone to open it. Clover is our main character. She is a commoner with neither connections or magical blood. She finds herself in England's secret magical academy, and she's there to find a cure for her brother Matthew, one of the few survivors of a fairy attack on the battlefields of World War I, which, I mean, sure, yeah, the fairies, World War I, why not? Which left the doors to fairy country sealed, the study of its magic banned, and its victims cursed. So she catches the eye of the golden boy of the school, Alden Lennox Fontaine, and his friends, and she finds herself in the seductive world of the country's magical aristocrats. Years later, when the fairy seals break, Clover knows it's because of what they did. And she knows that she must seek the help of people she once called friends, and now doesn't quite know what to call, if there's any hope of saving the world as they know it. Okay, so we have another one where some people did some things that maybe were a little sketchy when they were kids, and now it's time to come back together as adults and save the world. And I don't know, I love that trope. I know it's the Stephen King's It. I read a book this month called The Dissonance, which had the same kind of trope in it, and I loved it, and I just never get tired of that. So I think that's gonna be a really great one. I was really excited to receive it. It is coming out, let's see if it says. It is coming out on the 22nd of October, so I will definitely read it and have up a review before that date. And then I have, this book actually comes out sooner than that, so I'm probably gonna read this at the beginning of the month, and that is The Wedding Witch by Erin Sterling. And this is the newest book in her series that starts with the X-Hex. I'm not sure what the name of the actual series is. Bowen Penhallow has always been a loner, studying dark and ancient magic on a mountaintop in Wales. He prefers it that way. But when his friend Colin, who happens to be a ghost, sure, asks him to attend a Yuletide wedding at a grand estate deep in the Welsh countryside, he agrees. And then we have Tamsin, who is our female main character. She is not a witch, but she makes her living off of them. She is a procurer and seller of magical items. Bowen is an occasional customer, as well as the star of some of her dirtiest dreams. But she's been around enough witches to know that, as a human, getting involved with one is not the smartest idea. She also has an invitation to this wedding. We can imagine hijinks are going to ensue from there. There's going to be some love story going on there. I've read the X-Hex. Is it the greatest book I've ever read? No, but it's very great for fall, very light, very fluffy, sweet. I haven't read the second book in the series. I'm not sure it really matters. Probably not going to read it before I read this, but I'm going to be reading this one soon. It is about witches. It's also Christmas themed, so I'm a little bit early, but kind of try to get in the season a little early. Not a problem. And then I have one more book that I need to read before the end of October, and that is something I am so excited about. It is Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. So I do have an arc of this. I don't know if there's any change in terms of the text from when this book was self-published, because this book, M.L. Wang actually self-published this book, I think in 2023, and then it was picked up by a publisher. I'm not sure which publisher. Random House. I think it's Berkeley. It might be Berkeley. Anyway, so I asked for the arc of this just so that I could read it, but they don't want you to publish your review too early, so I've been holding on to it for 6 months and not reading it, and now I am ready. I have actually already pre-ordered the physical copy because I am so convinced that I am going to love this book because I've never seen anything bad about it. But anyway, if you don't know anything about it, it is a fantasy dark academia story. The first woman ever admitted to a prestigious order of mages unravels a secret conspiracy that could change the practice of magic forever. So I don't know anything else about it other than the fact that it at least starts out in this magical academy, and we have a female main character, and I've just heard it's fantastic. So that's all I really want to know. I don't need to know anything else. I am so excited to read it this month. And that one comes out on October, I think 27th. So right before the end of the month. So I hope you have enjoyed my TBR, my Tower of Terror TBR for the month. I will not get to all these books. It is too many books. But I'm glad to have a lot of possibilities of things to choose from. This is one of my favorite times of the year. I don't know why I don't read scary books all year, or horror. Some people read horror, mysteries, all that stuff all year, and I stick it into about a 2-month period, and I always feel like I should read it, in other seasons, but somehow fall feels like the season to me for these books, and I cannot wait to get started reading them. If this is your first time here, thank you for watching all the way to the end. I would love if you would stick around, if you would leave a comment, subscribe if you feel so inclined, and I would love if you would let me know in a comment what book you are looking forward to reading in the month of October. Bonus points if it's spooky. I hope that you all have a great week. I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.